Okay, and this is our last video for today, and in this video we're going to cover how to solve a system using elimination, but this is going to be an example where you have to multiply before you can add or subtract the equation. So let's take a look at this example right here. We have negative 10x plus 3y equals 1, negative 5x minus 6y equals 23. So if you notice, both these equations are in standard form. My x's are lined up, my y's are lined up, my equal signs, and then my numbers. So we're set up good for elimination there. However, if you notice, if I try to add straight down my columns, negative 10 plus negative 5 is not going to give me 0. 3 plus negative 6 is not going to give me 0. So I don't have those opposite numbers in this example that will add to 0 in front of my x's or in front of my y's. So when this happens, you can still use elimination. You just have to multiply one or sometimes both equations by a number to get those opposite numbers that will add to 0. So if you take a look at the first equation here, I'm going to look at my y's. Okay, so my y's have smaller numbers. Those are typically a little bit easier to work with the x's. But you could work with the x's if you wanted to. So if you look at your y's, you have 3y and negative 6y. So if I have a negative 6y here, if I could get this 3y to be a positive 6y, then I would have those numbers that would add to 0. So think about it. Ask yourself, okay, to get from 3 to 6, what do I have to multiply by? Well, I have to multiply 3 by 2 to get 6. So here's where you have to be careful. If you're going to multiply the 3y by 2 to get 6y, in order to keep this equation balanced, you have to multiply everything in the equation by 2. So I'm going to put parentheses around the entire equation. I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So when I do that, I get negative 20x plus 6y equals 2. So I'm multiplying everything, including the 1, by 2. And then that second equation's going to stay unchanged. So I don't need to change anything in that second equation. So now, if you look at this system that I get, 6y plus negative 6y is 0. So now I can go ahead and add straight down my columns. Negative 6y plus 6y is 0. Those are eliminated, they cancel out. Negative 20x plus negative 5x is negative 25x. Bring down your equal sign. 2 plus 23 is 25. So now this gives me an equation that only has a variable. So I just have an x, so I can solve for the x by using inverse operations. So it's negative 25 times x, so my inverse operation is going to be division. When I do that, I get x is negative 1. Now remember, you still need your y value, so you can plug back into one of the original equations. Don't use the equation after you multiplied because the numbers are going to be bigger and they're harder to work with. So use one of the original equations. Pick the easier of the two. So for this one, I would probably pick the top equation. Looks a little bit easier. I'd rather work with the number 1 than the number 23. So I'm going to use the top equation. I'm going to plug in what I now know x to be, which is negative 1. So then I'm going to solve for y. Negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. To solve for y here, I need to first move this positive 10 to the other side. So I'm going to use my inverse operation of subtraction. 1 minus 10 is negative 9. Bring down the 3y. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So I get y is negative 3. So here's my x, here's my y. Write your solution as an ordered pair, x, comma, y.